Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We watched USA basketball. The reason they were in a game yesterday is because Jayson Tatum didn't play. As you can see, he is the world champion, and you can't teach that. Bada boom. Man, the people in the room, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Tanner. It was an eventful, I would say 24 hours, really the last 8 hours or so. Where I live is under heavy tornado warning. I was forced to go down to, I live in the 15th floor, so I was forced to go down to the lobby of my building. Earlier today, I was woken up in the middle of the night by a big alarm from the weather service. Apparently there's still tornadoes in the area. It's all I know is I'm looking out my window right now. There's a ton of rain. It is windy. So yeah, it's been eventful for the last few hours and looks like it's probably going to be for the next few hours as well.
I like working during storms though. That is one fun part about it today for you.
I like hanging out at home, like a lazy Sunday with some storms going on in the background. That's a good day.
The DMV. What up, DMV?
I can't believe you tried to argue that nobody knows what the DMV is.
More people know what the tri-state is than the DMV, Grant.
I so disagree with that.
No, nobody knows what when you say DMV, people think you're going to get your license done.
That's I don't even know what the tri-state is. What? New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania?
No, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Yeah, see? I didn't even know.
Which is interesting that that's called the tri-state. But the DMV is where you get your license.
How did Connecticut get that honor, but not Massachusetts or Rhode Island? They're also right there.
Massachusetts is ahead of Connecticut. Like they're all touching each other. New York touches Connecticut and New Jersey.
Does New York not touch Massachusetts?
Yeah, it does, but up, like not in the city area.
Okay, but Massachusetts has Boston. You guys have what? Hartford?
That's not the tri-state. I'm a Boston guy, Grant. I'm from Boston, first of all. Okay.
You didn't like living in Boston.
I do. I'm moving back to Boston. I'm moving back in like a week, 2 weeks.
I thought you was it the location of your I thought you didn't like your last place.
I've had two places I've had one in the city and then one like 10 minutes outside the city. I like the one outside the city the best, but because it was bigger and I had like more parking and stuff. In the city blows, but it'll be fine. Whatever. I'm moving back in the city. It's no big deal.
Speaking of parking, tell me why I was leaving my apartment the other day. And of course, we've got this huge heat wave going on. I'm already in a bad mood because I opened the door to go outside and it's 102 degrees, but whatever. I'm walking to my car and there's a sticker. It's like actually stuck onto my windshield that says violation. You are parking somewhere where you're not to be. If you do not move the car, it will be towed. I pay $100 a month for that exact spot. So naturally I see that and I'm pissed and I have to rip it off my windshield. And because it's so hot, the sticker has melted onto my car. I can't completely get it up. So I've ripped most of the pieces off, but there's still a bunch of gunk left over. And then I have to go to my leasing office and I basically say, hey, what's the deal here? And they're looking around in the back end and they say, oh, it looks like your spot was moved. We had you marked down as being parked somewhere else. It's like, okay, well, you need to make sure that we change this back. And they're like, yeah. What? We'll call you in like 30 minutes when it's done. So I leave. Well, I think I was going to the gym. That's the whole reason I was leaving in the first place. I go there, no call. So I'm like, okay. I still have to go do some errands, go to the grocery store, do that. Still no call. I get back to my place, and by that time, the day is over and the leasing office closed. I was saying, I swear, if they tow me and they say that I'm not in my spot, whatever, I'm going to have a field day. I'm gonna go off on them. And thankfully, the next day they didn't end up towing me. But I do still have some of the sticker nastiness on my car, which I don't know, not very happy about.
It's a tough life, Grant.
Very first world problems.
Very first world, but you know what? We're in the first world, so we should have first world problems. Anyways, speaking of first world problems, the United States had a first world problem against Serbia for about, 35 minutes of that basketball game yesterday. 33 minutes.
That was a great transition, Tanner.
I know. I've learned a lot from G Unit over at Visa, and the transitions there pretty spot on. But Before we talk about that, actually, got to go back on the transition. You got to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You got to like the video. You got to share the video. It's going to be an electric video today. We got a lot of good topics, including talking about Joe Milton, how he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the New England Patriots, how Tommy DeVito is going to be the franchise quarterback for the New York Giants, and USA basketball. So, Grant, why don't you take it away on the USA?
Tanner, we know that I'm more the basketball guy than you are. Not that you don't like basketball, obviously, but if we were going to power rank it, like we would put you at number one for baseball, we would put me at number one for basketball, so on, so on. This game, first of all, is one of the most exciting, one of the most fun games to watch that I can remember in years. Honestly, I had so much fun watching this game. The U.S. was down by as many as 17 points. They were able to battle back. They win the fourth quarter, 32-15. But I got to tell you, the closing sequence of a Steph Curry 3, a LeBron get it and go in transition, and then a Kevin Durant ISO hang pull on a long 2 basically to put the game away. It was just so fun, and it really made me look back. And I don't want to sound too cheesy or corny or take it too deep with this, but like I've just enjoyed watching the last 10, 15 years of basketball so much because of LeBron, because of Steph, because of KD. You've had the stories, you've had the drama, you've had the championships, the greatness, and above all 3 of those guys love the game. And like Michael Jordan loved the game, but he was out gambling until 4 a.m. at casinos. And, someone like, I don't know, who are some of the other great, like Nikola Jokic does love the game when he's there, but when he's not there, he doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't want to promote it. He wants to go be with his horses. These 3 guys eat, sleep, and breathe basketball. And to watch them, the fourth quarter basically just not call any plays and just go run around and figure it out on their own with their greatness. It was awesome. It was truly, truly one of my favorite basketball games I've ever watched.
I think it was wild that they were down 17 points, and they were still like, when I checked, I think it's the 17 point. What was that? Like mid third quarter?
It was either late second or early third. Yeah,
like they were still like minus 220 to win the game at that point, which is pretty crazy. The odds, I think they were plus 195 going into the fourth quarter. Those odds quickly dipped. I saw a lot of people got them at plus 130, but there was never a moment where it was like bookmakers were giving you a good price. I don't know who would go in the fourth quarter. They were down 13 in that range.
I believe so. I believe it's 13. Yeah.
I don't think I would ever taken plus 190 on that. That would have been a tough pill to swallow there because it didn't look good the entire game.
Well, so I had confidence in their ability to win the game, but again, it was largely just this has been happening for me with track and field a lot. They're just all the data points you have. First of all, it's international basketball. You don't have a bunch of data points to begin with. And the ones you do have might paint a picture the other way. You just kind of got to tap into, like, for lack of a better word, what do I know is going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, I knew LeBron, Steph, and KD were not going to lose that game. I was texting my buddies. I said, I don't want to see anybody else touch the basketball the entire fourth quarter. And ultimately, I think those 3, it was either those 3 or it was LeBron and Steph, but they played like 17 and a half minutes of the 20 in the second half. They were like a plus 20 with Steph on the court and a plus 14 with LeBron on the court. Like, it was truly just give it to the stars and they will win you the game.
Yeah, I mean, Serbia shot the lights out too. Like that's the reason they were in the game. But I think if the U.S. doesn't get the 3-1, it's a different game. Like that was the moment where you felt like they didn't really look like they wanted to be there until that moment. Once they got that, it was a little like, okay, here we go.
I gotta say, this is one of Steph Curry's best games he's ever played. It's one of the best Olympic games, especially Olympic elimination games. For him to drop 36 points, first of all, in international play where the rules are different, but also in a 40-minute game. He plays. What do you play? He plays 33 minutes in a 40-minute game. That's probably equivalent to like 37 or so in a 48-minute game. So this is really, like, in my opinion, this is a 45, 50-point game that he does right here. He goes 9 of 14 from 3, also has 8 rebounds, And he is the reason the USA was really in it at all. I think he scored like 17 of their first 20 points. Like every time Serbia was trying to pull away and they would get it to 10, 13, 15, it would be a Steph Curry three that kind of reset the counter and kept the US right there. And of course, he did have the and 1-3, like you mentioned. So, yeah, I mean, shout out to Steph, man. That was awesome.
The box score doesn't do it justice because when you look at the box score, the U.S. should have like dominated the game. They shot 57% compared to Serbia at 46%, 50% for three from the U.S., which it doesn't feel like that at all watching the game. 38% for Serbia. It doesn't feel like that. It felt like they were more like around 45%.
Well, it's because Serbia was actually above 50% in the fourth quarter, and then they just missed all of their late threes.
Yeah, no, they Serbia blew the game, but you would expect that to happen when you have a team like the U.S.
Yeah, I agree. You know what else turned the tides too? It was when Bogdan Bogdanovic, sorry, I always mix up Bogdan and Bojan. Bogdan Bogdanovic kept looking at Carmelo Anthony and doing the three to the side of the head. And like I could tell, that the USA players did not like that. Kevin Durant did not like that. LeBron James, one of Carmelo's closest friends, they did not like that. I promise you, you don't disrespect. A lot of people consider Carmelo Anthony the greatest Team USA basketball player ever. So for Bogdan Bogdanovic to be doing that in front of all of them, I think they took it out on him.
Well, yeah, but they were I mean, this game was really close. Like the U.S., we can talk about how great a comeback it was, but they shouldn't even been in the situation to begin with. They didn't want to be there at all. Like you looked at Steph Curry's face, third quarter, I think it was, that screenshot. Like they all looked like, what the hell is going on right now?
Well, so I want to give credit to Brian Windhorst here. He's over there in Paris. He said this weeks ago. He said the toughest game the U.S. will play in this entire tournament will be an elimination game against Serbia. Now, you weren't sure where they were going to match up, or you weren't sure it was going to happen, and if it did, where that would happen. But they played Serbia as a warm-up and an exhibition, and they also played Serbia in the group stage. So this was the third time that they've had to play them. And granted, that was kind of the one team whose number they did have. But at the same time, if you're the Serbian coaching staff, you can say, okay, we've had this game plan for the first two games. It hasn't worked. We've got to go with this different approach here. So you knew there was going to be some sort of change. And again, Serbia had been an awful three-point shooting team in this tournament. I don't think they had a game where they made more than 10 threes, and then they were just lights out. So the combination of that did make it a very difficult game. And it's not like, to me, it's not like the South Sudan game where the U.S. was favored by 42 and they won by 1. This one made sense for it to be close. And also, you got to keep in mind, Serbia has who we all consider the best player in the world. So, again, it was a very good game of basketball, and it was a very good win for the USA.
Brian Windhorst got to lose some weight, Grant.
All right, well, I'm not here to body shame. Did you see Kevin Durant on Twitter after the game, by the way?
No, what did he do?
So basically, so Kevin Durant I gotta say, when Kevin Durant first had the burner and then everything happened with Golden State, like I truly did not like Kevin Durant at all. He was kind of my basketball villain. I like that Kevin Durant is just calling people out on Twitter now. I like his personality. I like the confidence in himself. He knows who he is. He knows what type of person he is. He's there to play basketball. He was practicing his jump shot form in the middle of the club. That's who Kevin Durant is. So at 5:09 Paris time, after the U.S. has just pulled off, one of the best basketball wins of the last few years, Kevin Durant is saying in his interview, this is the best team I've been on. This is one of the best games I've ever played. LeBron is saying this is one of the best games I've ever been a part of. Steve Kerr said the same thing. Somebody tweets KD, and they basically say, I'm trying to get the tweet up. Oh, so they don't tweet KD. Sorry, they just put a tweet out there. They say, Serbia just took the most talented team in the history of the planet to the wire with a medal on the line. Team USA was a 16-point favorite. Their whole country should be proud. This is a guy from New Jersey. And Kevin Durant just replied, where are you from? ? And someone else replied to that, and they said, Katie just responded to this guy for saying the country of Serbia should be proud. What a scumbag move. Some people are saying me calling Katie a scumbag was too harsh. While I'll rephrase, he's a petty, insecure, little ignorant bitch. And then Kevin Durant just replied, sounds like you're upset. And like he had a few of those. He replied to like 4 or 5 different people. And I just loved it. The fact he was up there, chirping people on Twitter at 5, 6 a.m. local time after the game was pretty funny.
Well, I like when athletes do that and clap back a little bit. I mean, it gives it a little more. They don't feel as untouchable to the common person, which is cool.
They feel more human. Yeah, like when you watch. I mean, I don't know if LeBron's the best example because he's so accessible, but like when you watch Tom Brady, he's also, I guess he's not an athletic freak either. I don't know. When you watch these super tall, extremely muscular, 100 millionaire professional athletes, you can look at them and tell they're human, but they don't seem like they're the same. They still don't seem like they're the same species as you, really. So I do like this. I'm with you. I like when athletes have podcasts and they tell stories from their playing days, or when they get on Twitter and talk to people. It makes them more human.
Definitely. So U.S. has France in the gold medal game. They're going to win. They're probably not going to cover. That would be my take based on what they've done throughout this entire tournament. I hope Jayson Tatum can play a little bit. It's really sad watching him sit on the bench. What do you think this game's going to do, Grant? Grant, you yawning right now? I need you to lock in, man.
I'm sorry. I didn't sleep because of the storm. I'm here. Don't worry.
What do you think's going to happen in the gold medal game?
I think that USA is gonna win by a decent amount. I would take them to cover. I think this game was if you're gonna lose, it's right here. They dug deep. They went to the well, and I think they found something. Not found something about themselves, but they just proved it to themselves once again. France. I want to say, not to toot my own horn here, but I am going to toot my own horn. I did call this. I said France was going to make the run. They upset Canada. They upset Germany. Doesn't surprise me to see them here, but the run stops here.
All right. Well, basketball talk is done. We got preseason football now. Grant, did you watch the games last night at all?
I didn't catch the entirety of both of them, but I did spend some time flipping back and forth.
All right. Well, I watched a good chunk because I was betting on them, and it did not go very well. The Panthers are going to be absolutely atrocious this season. It doesn't matter who is playing quarterback. They have no offensive line. I don't know who their starters are because there's just no names on the team. But if their starters were on the field last night at all, they should be ashamed of themselves. The Patriots offense is going to be absolutely terrible because I do think the Panthers backups were in the game the majority of the time last night, and they had their ones out there across the board. Bailey Zappi played like 2 quarters in the game. Patriots look terrible. Do not look at that 17-3 win. That's thanks to Joe Milton coming to the game late. Joe Milton was just fantastic, but he also did a lot of stupid things with the football. But he can make plays. Going to the other game, Jack Plummer is not an NFL quarterback either. 11-21 for 86 yards. Lions versus Giants. I'll give you a brief rundown of this game. Nate Sudfeld should get cut today.
I saw a Twitter account that impersonated a reporter, and they said, "Oh my goodness, we have just learned that the Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell has cut Nate Sudfeld at halftime. Reportedly, he told him it took all he had not to beat his ass."
He is so bad. And like, as a normal person watching these games who cannot throw a football to save my life, I think I could throw it better than Nate Sudfeld. He is terrible. Hendon Hooker came in, gave this team a little life, which was good. Then he got
trucked somebody,
which is stupid. Like, what the hell are you do? Then he got hurt. Like, you can't do that. That wasn't right after that play. But Hendon Hooker also had the ball on like the 6-yard line on first down and couldn't get in the end zone. This Lions team with Nate Sudfeld, Jared Goff better not get hurt, because if they have to go their backups at all, they're in a lot of trouble.
They'd be going to Hooker.
They would be going to Hooker if Hooker's okay. I don't know. Like, Hooker, I don't know what happened to him last night, but Nate Sudfeld, holy shit, he's worse. I'd rather have Jack Plummer playing quarterback for me. And then Tommy DeVito, that is New York Giants fans. Like, Tommy DeVito is your starting quarterback for years to come. Definitely. He is so much better. Drew Lock. He is terrible. Drew Lock should be ashamed of himself. But Tommy DeVito's a dog. I will say that.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? Did you know Daniel Jones and Drew Lock were draft mates or classmates? And there was actually discussion about if the Giants would take, what did they take Daniel Jones? Was it 6th? I think there was discussion about if they would take Drew Lock with that pick back in the day.
I thought he was like 15th. Am I wrong? I don't think the Giants had that late of a pick, though.
I think Washington had the 15th pick in that draft, and they took Dwayne Haskins. Rest in peace.
Daniel Jones was 6. That's amazing. And also too, the reporter working the Giants game last night. And I'm sorry, you're just catching strays right now because of how bad my betting went last night. But every player, like every new player she interviewed, she was like, how you feeling? Like, no, she asked Daniel Jones, how you feeling? Like, what do you think he's gonna say? He think am I not feeling good? My knee still hurts. Like, no, he's gonna say he's feeling great. And then he asked she asked Brian Burns, like, how happy are you to be a New York Giant? What do you think he's gonna say? Like, ask something of some value.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the funny thing too. Even though the Giants are going to be bad, Brian Burns is still probably happy to be there because he's not with the Panthers anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Giants could be okay if Tommy DeVito plays quarterback, but the entire
they've got I think bottom 3 or I guess top 3 odds to finish with the worst record this year.
They play in such a tough division. Like if you put them in the NFC South, they probably could win the NFC South, but it would be tight. They would be in the mix for sure. Everything about the preseason broadcasts are terrible. Like the quarterback, it's like watching this is no disrespect to the WNBA, but it's actually worse watching this than the WNBA because there's no sense of urgency to win.
No, and also I was talking with who you mentioned earlier, Greg Peterson, G Unit. We were just talking about some preseason betting strategies, and he mentioned that one of his favorites is you got to look for teams that play in the play in the preseason, and then they play again in the regular season, and that's to the time to bet the under. So I was actually looking at the schedule, and we've got Ravens Eagles coming up on Saturday, and they play again later this year. So despite those being 2 very good teams, I think that one could be a 7-3 type game.
Yeah, I'm done betting the preseason. I think the Patriots are going to be terrible this year. And Bailey Zappi, man,
so okay. Help me out with this. I'm confused why he got so much playing time.
Well, I think
he threw 20 passes in the preseason.
Yeah, he played most of it. So Jacoby Brissett played the first drive, and then you brought Drake May in, and it was raining. It was for Drake May. I'll tell you who your starting quarterback is, though. It's Joe Milton. Joe Milton, man, this dude can play. He's 6'5", 243 pounds. He will run over you. If he doesn't do anything stupid, like he made a few mistakes last night that could have cost him, but overall he's good. But Bailey Zappi is the fact that the Patriots were living with Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones speaks to where this franchise is. It's terrible.
So, okay. A serious question. Are you seriously on the Joe Milton train here?
Yeah, I'm on the Joe Milton train. And it's not just after one game last night. Drake May, we didn't watch enough of Drake May last night to make a decision on what he is going to be. And but Joe Milton, he can throw, he can run. Like some of the play, go back and watch the highlights of Joe Milton last night because that was the only highlights of the game. And I was betting against the Patriots, so it sucked to watch. But the Patriots scored 7 points for the first 3 quarters with Jacoby Brissett in the starting offensive line, Drake May, and Bailey Zappi, who have starting experience. The only reason they scored a touchdown is because they won the field possession battle, and you should against Jack Plummer, who's terrible. They had a good punt return, and then the Panthers dude on 3rd down went for a pick. He missed it, and that set them up on the 4-yard line because there was a 20 or 30-yard catch and run after that. That's the only reason they scored until Joe Milton came in the game.
Well, so the reason I ask is this has been happening for years. Joe Milton has fooled people for years because he's big and tall, and he can do a standing backflip, and he can throw the ball 70 yards, and he can run. He played 6 years of college football, really only got to start in one of them, and he had opportunities. He was at Michigan for 3 years. He was at Tennessee for 3 years. He had plenty of opportunities. It looked like he was going to be the starting quarterback. The guy we were talking about earlier, Hendon Hooker, transferred from Virginia Tech to Tennessee. It was going to be Joe Milton's job, and Hooker ended up getting the job. This guy, he looks like a physical freak, and he does seem to be. But I'm telling you, for whatever reason, when he gets on the field or when he's on the practice field, it just doesn't work out for him. Like, to put in perspective how crazy the hype on him is, you know how the Giants, I think it was during not Hard Knocks or not whatever the show was where the Giants, their draft board got leaked. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And they had everything color coded, like blue meant this. They had one gold player, one, and it was Joe Milton. Like, the hype on this guy has always been so high, but he has always missed out on the expectations.
He had a great year last year, though. I mean, he struggled to win on the road, but he had the game against Florida was really bad for him, but he still, I mean, 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, ran for 300. I mean, he had a good season last year. Michigan is not the place that's where Joe Milton is going to thrive. He's not going to thrive in Jim Harbaugh's offense. It's just not going to happen. So I don't blame him for not succeeding at Michigan there. And then when he went to Tennessee, Hendon Hooker is a good quarterback too. And Joe Milton had a really good season. You never know what coach is going to spark you, right? Like in college, I've even heard Patrick Mahomes talking about, like, they don't really, like, depending on the coach and how good you are, they don't necessarily teach you how to play quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, I remember hearing an interview with him. It's like, okay, if this guy has outside leverage, you're throwing this. If this guy has inside leverage, you're throwing this. You're not like reading defenses. There's so much to it. And again, Joe Milton made a lot of, like, if the Panthers were a decent football team, Joe Milton would have had an 80-yard pick six last night, but they're not. However, the plays, the upside, it's so high. And the problem is you draft Drake May, he is your guy just because of what you're paying him for an extended period of time. You're not going to go to Joe Milton this season. But he's good. He's really good.
Maybe they do go to Joe Milton. The Niners traded Trey Lance.
Maybe. Yeah.
Third overall pick. It can happen.
But that's because Trey Lance got hurt. And then he just was, never the same.
Well, I mean, we don't know that. We don't really know what he was. To this day, we have no idea what he was.
But you traded him, and then what? So what's his name was not there, was he?
Garoppolo.
Who took over for him? Garoppolo.
They had Garoppolo. They draft Trey Lance. He spends the next year, like, every once in a while he would come in those packages or whatever, but he wasn't really playing.
And they named him the starter.
They start Trey Lance the next year, but he gets injured and they go back to Garoppolo. And then, is that the same year Brock Purdy comes in as a rookie? I think it is.
It must be. Because doesn't Jimmy G get hurt?
Yeah, Jimmy G gets hurt. Brock Purdy takes over in like week 10, I think.
Yeah, and then he has a great 8 weeks, sets the world on fire.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, listen, some people have it, some people don't. I don't know if Trey Lance has it or not, but like Drake May looked like, it just gave me Mac Jones vibes. Gave me a lot of Mac Jones vibes.
He's got the same number too. I don't know why he did that, by the way. I don't know why he took the same number.
That's so stupid. Like, you just look, you scream Mac Jones. He doesn't look super athletic. He wears that like shut DNA helmet. It just looks ugly. Like, I'm not saying I'm not in on Drake May, but I am in on Joe Milton.
I mean, we'll see. I hope it works out for Joe Milton. I'm a fan of guys who persevere.
No, he'll be around. I mean, you look, he's 6'5", 6'4", whatever, at 243. There's a spot for him on the football field in the NFL with how athletic he is. You're not going to cut a guy like Joe Milton. If you do cut him, someone's going to pick him up right away because he can play quarterback. He's probably going to be able to play tight end someday and catch football. So there's a lot of value there.
You got any games? I mean, you did just say you were done betting on the preseason, but before you reached that point, did you have any games for the weekend that you were looking at?
No, I don't think I'm going to bet any other preseason games because it's preseason. I'm done betting on the preseason.
I'm going to bet the under on Eagles Ravens, like I was talking about, 34.5 points there. And then also I might take the Browns. I might take the Browns against the Packers because the Browns have such great quarterback depth for preseason standards. They've got Jameis Winston. I mean, if you want to go from the top, they've got Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, Tyler Huntley, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. That's not a great rotation of quarterbacks overall, but in the preseason, that's like a Hall of Fame ballot. So I would probably take the Browns in that one.
You want running quarterbacks in the preseason, guys that can move a little bit because nobody reads anything. No defenses know how to pursue. Like, it's just You're watching a bunch of 1A kids, like low-end 1A kids in the end of these games come in and live out their dream before they go take insurance sales jobs. That's the fourth quarter of the preseason. It's low 1A kids coming in, living the dream, getting a little burn before they go become an insurance salesman.
That's so mean. You wanted to be in the NFL one day.
And I took a credit card sales job when I got out of college. So what do you think I would have taken when I didn't make it in the NFL? A credit card sales job. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just saying that's the truth. A lot of these guys, that's what we're watching. When they get cut, like this, they're living their, when you're betting on the preseason, just understand what you're betting on. It's like if you're betting on the worst team in the WNBA, understand what you're betting on before you go into it. There's going to be a lot of frustration along the way.
I was listening to an interview with Dan Quinn yesterday. They were interviewing him at a joint practice with the Jets, and they were asking him about the schedule because I guess there's some rain up there. And Dan Quinn was saying, yeah, we're going to do some 7-on-7s here, and then we're going to do some 1-on-1s, and we have the game scheduled. If we need to cancel it because of the rain, we will, whatever. He was just kind of walking them through it. And then wait, I totally lost my train of thought. You were talking about the guys at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And he was just going through the whole outline of like what was going to happen. And then they asked him about the game itself, like what it was going to look like. And he said, yeah, Jaden Daniels is going to play here. We're going to keep the scheme stuff pretty low. And the reporter followed up with some question. And Dan Quinn basically said, our coaches are going to go through their normal game plan process. And then we're just not going to tell anybody. The players are never going to hear it. Like that's what the preseason is. They are calling cover 2 and cover 3 every play. No, just standard, no adjustments. We're not mixing any looks. We're running between the A or the B gap. We're throwing slants. Like that's it. There's nothing else.
No. And there's no sense of urgency to win the game either. Like that's another thing. I'm watching it last night and I'm trying to figure out if we have a chance to cover, and I'm doing the math in my head, and we got 3 timeouts, but you can't even think of it like that because they just want to get out healthy. So if the Lions would have scored last night and not given up like 20 points in the red zone, which they did give up 20 points in the red zone at least, if they would have scored, they weren't going to go back and try to win the game with 2 minutes left. They weren't going to take their timeouts. They were going to just get out of there with a loss instead of going out and trying to win it for people that are counting on them.
Yeah. I agree. Speaking of going out there and winning for people who can count on them, this is the last thing I'll say, but I don't know if you saw Noah Lyles ended up getting a bronze medal in the 200. I knew that he was sick after watching the semifinal.
Wait. Did you see his entrance? He comes out like the freaking Rock. And if you do that, don't tell me you have COVID at the end of the race. You better win the race if you do that.
He does that. He does that every time.
No excuse for
COVID. He's very eccentric. In my opinion, like if you know you're sick, you got to save that energy. You don't do that. But I mean, if we can talk about if it was COVID, if it wasn't COVID, whatever. I knew I can tell you like just from my years of running and coaching, like I watched the semifinal and I texted people I knew he is sick. But for him to have known that he had COVID and other people to have known, like I had a lot of money bet on Noah. I had some parlays going and pretty much all of them included Noah because in my opinion, he was one of the biggest locks of the entire Olympics, assuming he was healthy. The fact that they knew he was sick and especially sick with a disease like COVID, like that has to come out. As a bettor, we need to know that information.
Yeah. I mean, based on how he came out though, it didn't look like he was too sick. Like he was feeling it.
Again, he does that all the time. It's actually like, it's very annoying. I understand what he's trying to do because nobody cares about track and field. He's trying to be extravagant so that people at least talk about it, even if they hate him. There's a conversation between him and Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt told him, you need to keep being yourself. You need to keep being a showman, whatever. Like, I get it. But again, in that moment, if you're that sick, just save the energy.
Yeah, I agree. He needed to because it was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, he ended up getting a medal. Congratulations. He already won a gold as well. So, shout out to Noah Lyles. Shout out to Team USA on the track.
Shout out to everyone for subscribing to the YouTube channel. Shout out to all you guys. Smash the subscribe button, comment, share, like. Grant, take us out of here.
Guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Tanner and I hope you do enjoy this weekend with the Olympics and the NFL preseason. We will be back to discuss everything on Monday in the next episode of Ride the Line.